not many rock drummers use brushes. And I loved that you asked about Cars Hiss by My Window. And also I use brushes on Spy in the House of Love. So it's definitely a jazz musician's thing. Joe Jones invented brushes in the 20s, a great drummer. And you sort of just swish around, but you got to have some technique. Oh my God. Anyway, that's my jazz influence seeping into rock and roll. Here's this song, and it's got a really nice groove. And then, I don't know why, but we broke it down and went into the slow section. And that began Mr. Mojo Rising. Well, mojo was a blues term for sexuality, and so I thought, well, what if I slowly increase the tempo like an orgasm? The problem was that it was a 7-minute piece. We did these epics, which I like, breaking that 3-minute barrier. I wanted to get back to the same exact tempo I had at the beginning. And so here I am. Mr. Mojo Risin. I'll do it fast. I'll speed up the process. Mr. Mojo Risin. Mr. Mojo Risin. And then I want to get back to and so it's been 5 minutes since I heard that, and we did everything live. So I had to approximate the tempo of where we were 5 minutes ago. I was close. I think I'm rushing it a little bit for you drummers, but it was a real challenge, and I'm really proud of that song. You know, I love the feel. The whole album was here. Hello. It was blues-based, and it was an answer to perfection. Our middle period, Soft Parade, was like, oh God, hundreds of takes, you know. And I'm still, I like that album. Actually, the idea of strings and horns was something Ray and I talked about before we even made our first album, because we love jazz. And it's something we wanted to experiment with and go through. And the critics kind of dissed us for changing our sound, and it was #1. And I say, if we hadn't gone through that, we wouldn't have gotten back to Morrison Hotel and finally LA Woman, which is the garage masterpiece, because it was done in the garage practically. Bruce's idea of, you guys made a lot of records, we don't need to be perfectionists, we'll just do a couple takes on everything. And he was right. And I said to Ray, you know, Miles Davis, on one of his albums, there's a big blaring trumpet mistake. And the producer said, well, we got to do it over. And he said, nah, the feel's too good. Exactly. That's the approach of LA Woman. And it was perfect that we did it with Bruce, you know. And in fact, Jim, it's interesting, with Jim's demise, still we made the last album. It was excellent. His drinking never affected the work in the studio. I mean, Paul used to have to close the session down because he'd be too loaded. But I think he got empowered by us producing LA Woman ourselves, you know. And we all did. And that was a plus. So it was good to say goodbye to Paul, although he taught us how to make records. Here's something wonderful that Jack Holzman did. After Jim passed, there was a billboard on Sunset of the LA Woman album. And he left it up there. I mean, I don't know, back then it was $1,000 a month, let's say. And he left it up there for 6 months or something. And the other beautiful thing is that it's sort of facing the Chateau Marmont, facing the West. And our original album, the first album ever, was on a billboard right across from it, facing the East. And so I think of how we went to the East and conquered the Occidental, and then the last album is facing the end of Western civilization, bookends to our career, and that's the gateway to Laurel Canyon. Pam wanted to get him out of LA, hoping that that might slow down his descent. Unfortunately, it didn't. You know, they drink wine for breakfast in Paris, so I don't know. You know, I mean, I know Jim admired the expats who went over, you know, Hemingway and crew, and wanted to emulate them. When he called me, and I was telling him how well we're having a second single, writers, people are crazy for this, you know, and he said, cool, I'll come back, and, you know, he didn't.